Today on the Nerdy Gritty, He-Man and the issue of blaming the fans.
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, they make some man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. By the power of Grayskull, I am Dez.
And I don't remember many of the, I'm Fox.
You could just say I'm He Fox.
Sure,
That
I'm
could
He
have
Fox,
been like that.
or, yeah.
Or She Fox.
Or
Either
that,
one, yeah.
maybe. But before that, okay, so I presented with you this intro kind of question topic to talk about. It was somewhat random, although, I mean, we talk about this a lot. I was listening to The Besties, a video game podcast. They brought up NBA Jam and the fact that there were like secret characters you could put codes in and play as like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And, and characters like that were just out of nowhere and fun. And I remember and it just sent me on this this history of like Tony Hawk did that. Like so many games had just like fun, goofy, whatever. And it just kind of like, even if it was a serious game, you could just input a code or unlock the ability to play as something else.
Yeah.
And it was just fun because it didn't take themselves super seriously. And I feel like that doesn't happen anymore. Not as often, at least. In fact, and even Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remake, the great, excellent remake of those games, they have 3 secret characters, and none of them are from outside. Like, there's Officer Dick, who is a character from one of the levels. There is you can play as like the mascot of one of the skate companies, and then you can play as somebody else.
Is it a panda from Enjoy?
No, it's something else.
Then
I
then
forgot.
it's garbage and I hate it.
But in the original,
if you cannot play as a skateboarding panda,
see that'd be fun. But in the original, it's a skeleton of some kind.
Got it.
So it's still like a thing, but it's just a mascot of a skate company. In the original Tony Hawk 1, you could play as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But they couldn't do it again because of rights. They couldn't get the rights to do that because Disney, I assume, or Sony.
Sony, one of the other.
Maybe one of those. But either way, I was wondering, what would be the fun, ridiculous characters you put in the cheat code to play as in today's, let's just say Tony Hawk. Let's say it's the new Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
I'm glad because most of mine revolve around the type of tricks and things 100%. You could do.
So who would you be able to unlock and have a good old time playing?
So here's a timeless one, right?
Please.
One that would have been great. It would have valid when it first came out and valid today, Kratos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And like just him with the chains of chaos or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Just being able to like almost Spider-Man, web sling them. Like the board flies away and he just
grabs
like
it.
Boy.
And that's the name of the trick.
Man.
Boy.
And that even not Atreyu, dang it, what's his name?
Atreus.
Yeah, Atreyu is Never Ending Story.
A band.
Oh, also that.
Yeah.
But Atreus as one of them also. Like have them both in there.
they're both on the skateboard at the same time.
That would be weird.
It's like Kratos
has
teaching his son.
Has like a chain from the back of his board and he's pulling Atreus along.
Yeah, that'll work. Atreus would be fun. It'd be a fun tie-in, be relevant, the new God of War.
Yeah.
Probably next year, hopefully. That'd be good. I was thinking, I'm going to get the, they had a lot of, they had Marvel characters. You could play as Wolverine in one of the Tony Hawks. You could play as Darth Maul in one of them.
Oh, I remember
So I figured a Disney property. I mean, they're now all Disney properties. So I'm going to give 2 right here that are kind of the same, from the same line. Baby Yoda and or Thanos.
Okay. Oh, man, those are both
Which
so
I think
good.
I was just thinking, what would they do? And those would be very easy to say, yeah, let's get Baby Yoda because it's funny and he's hot right now.
If you're going to do Grogu, if you're going to do the child, is he in his little floating thing and
or
the skateboard's just under him, like floating a foot under him?
Or skateboard.
The floating thing is his
the
skateboard? That would be incredible. I would love that, man.
Sure, and he uses force powers to do some special moves.
All right, here's mine that I am shocked that nobody's capitalized on this yet.
All right.
Here's my second one. Donald Trump or something to that nature. just some like very, very obvious reference, but without actual no defamation.
Yeah, they don't have to. Well, I mean, they're going to get sued either way because that's just how he do. But
and then just like the stupidest things in the world.
He just does the worst specials. All of his stats are 1 and he can't be better, and he's just the worst.
And then there would be like the tunnel jump challenges.
His long tie.
Yes, that would be. Again, I am shocked that no game has gone there.
I'm
yet.
sure it's maybe not in video games.
Well, there are mods around. I'm sure that people
fair.
have modded games, but
let's move on. Let's get into some news here.
Yeah. Man, a new simulator came out. You know how them Sims go.
I love goofy, super niche simulators.
So I almost wanted to make this an intro, and I wanted to try and have you guess the simulator.
I'm heavily considering playing Power Washing Simulator. Is that the one? Did I just ruin it for you?
No.
Okay.
No. I wanted to try and guess you the simulator by the reviews.
Sure.
But I was afraid that you'd get it too quickly.
Because I'm good at games.
Here we go. I don't know quite what I expected from this game, but I own a company, similar to this.
Sure.
So the first thing I did was grind to get a skag to test, but the stripping mechanics, test out the stripping mechanics, and I was very let down. Any idea?
Well, I know that Lawnmower Simulator just came out.
There it is, my friend.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, right off the bat.
I wouldn't have gotten it from that review, but I'm just going purely because I saw that come out. It just recently came out.
So Lawnmower Simulator comes out,
yes.
And here's my articles on PC Gamer, is that people have very strong feelings. The actual article title is "The Steam Reviews for Lawn Mowing Simulator Are Revealing Very Strong Feelings About Lawn Mowing," and kind of what they're saying is, look, it's a simulator. We understand people get really serious about simulators because that's what simulators are for, to get serious about it. But also, it's lawn mowing,
hey,
y'all.
Calm down.
It's lawn mowing. Some of them are literally as granular as going full RPMs and full speed, cutting 3 or 4 inches of grass. Why top it off when we are cutting grass at 2.5 inches? Are we $20 lawn guys? A cool season lawn should be at 3.5 inches minimum. They look great at 4 to 4.5.
I love it. That's so good. I love it.
So I guess these lawn mowing simulator guys made this sim, but to them it was like you mow a lawn, and here's ways to cut the lawn.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize that there's some lawn mowing people out there.
Yeah, landscaping companies.
Yeah.
People who want to continue doing this, I guess, outside of work. If Bus Driver Simulator is a thing, or if it comes out, I'm not going to play it.
Yeah.
Because I already do that.
No, I don't want to.
I would just get frustrated by it.
Oh, man.
So you recently went to Disney.
I did.
Just a couple weeks ago. We talked about some of your favorite things.
Yeah.
And we did briefly talk about how, I remember this now, that there wasn't a Fast Pass anymore, or at least at the time, because of limited numbers. You reminded me of this yesterday or this morning or whenever we talked about it. But they had certain rides that were super popular. You had to reserve space on them. Well, Disney has just announced that there is a new version of Fast Pass coming out. It's a paid line skipping replacement with it's called Disney Genie Plus.
That's
Apparently,
right.
It's like an app or something called Disney Genie, I guess. I don't know. But I think we're going to talk about this as an actual topic.
Yeah.
In a couple weeks, even though it feels a little niche, it feels like something that could kind of alter the dynamics, as well as the fact that there are some like equity things in here because it's a paid thing now. You have to pay to skip the lines. But I wanted to get your hot take on this. They're changing it to a paid line skipping replacement version of Fast Pass.
Yes.
What do you think?
I'm into it. I like it.
You are.
It's good. Yeah,
okay.
It is good. Here's the reality of Disney parks that we don't understand. I mean, first of all, you and I kind of discussed this before. It's a luxury is number one.
100%.
Nobody has to do this. Nobody deserves
Absolutely not. It's fun
this
and you can
or
have great
whatever
memories
else.
of it, but it is a luxury.
Right. Second of all, they can only physically bring in X amount of people a day.
Yeah.
Their parks are only so large.
Even during normal non-quarantine, non-COVID
Right.
times, you can have X number of people.
And so there's a certain amount of people that they can bring in at any moment.
Yes.
And the only way that they can possibly balance this is by price. Otherwise, they have to start saying, okay, fine, only Californians can come, only the Western United States. I
Sure,
don't know.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
show me. No,
Show
they
me,
don't want to do that.
Show me your ID.
Yeah. So instead, they just raise the price, and that helps keep the numbers down.
Yeah.
Like they have that many people that want to go. It's supply and demand. It's
One-
literally like
100%.
basic supply and demand there.
Yeah.
And so the lines are gonna get long. Well, you know what happens when those people who pay to get on early, the other line gets shorter. Those people who are paying to get in early are no longer in that other line.
Right.
And so you are waiting what feels like a less amount of time because the line is shorter. Sure, it's being interrupted
Without
by the other
paying
people.
extra.
Right. And so it's just this way to help kind of speed things up a little bit, get the flow going a little bit. What they end up doing is the cars come from different sides on rides a lot of the time.
Okay.
And so there'll be like 2 tracks that can come in, and they'll dedicate one track to the fast pass and the other track to the normal. And so the normal side is running about as normal as it would be otherwise. And then they just have that fast track going super fast, spinning around with really high turnover, and it kind of makes it faster for everyone. And so at the end of the day, they're making more money. Cool, Disney, I got no problem with that. That's your thing. You are a business. That's what you want to do. And it's making things a little bit better for everybody. And you talked about equity, and it's not financially equitable. Obviously, those with more money will be able to do this
more easily.
But it is equitable as in this is one way to say this is how we're doing it. Anybody can do it if they want to. And they are able to
sure.
take
I mean,
their hands off
access
of it.
is available to everybody. That
Right.
doesn't always mean it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen how much it costs?
I want to say it's like $20.
Okay, yeah, it's $20. I was gonna ask how much you would pay if you didn't know the price. But do you think $20 at Disneyland is reasonable
For a day?
Because it seems like it's a day's worth.
Yes, I think it's a day's worth,
Okay.
and then you get it for the whole day.
Yeah.
Heck, freaking yes.
Maybe even just like the third day. We got three-day park hopper tickets. Third day we're gonna do all the fun rides again that we only did once or whatever. Let's grab a $20 fast pass and have a better chance of actually getting on all of them.
Not only is
That's probably
this-
exactly how I would do it.
Not only is that a very, very affordable, easy decision for me. That's not my question. My question is if everybody does
is there a limit to who can?
If everybody does this, is all of a sudden the fast pass can
everybody's
take
just from
longer.
the regular line and the fast pass instead?
Yes,
Now you got to pay to be in the other line.
And so to me, it's almost like this. That's a little bit cheap.
I'm sure
Disney.
it will take some tweaking and some real just trial and error on how much it should cost, and because if everybody's doing it, it doesn't make any difference, does it?
If these days, if there's a company that you expect to have their stuff put together, it's Disney amusement parks.
Sure, they
amusement
run
parks,
like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, they're so fine-tuned, and to the point that they measure the distance from any point to a trash can.
Yeah,
they measure the distance from any point to a bathroom.
Yeah,
they know.
I've watched a few videos where they talk about the sight lines. While you're in a particular area of the park, you will not see anything from any other area, trying to give you a better sense of immersion into that area. And it's just so many things that go into the construction of this.
They know what they're doing, man.
Yeah.
Fox, what have you been up to, man?
Well, it's been a couple weeks. I've seen a bunch of movies.
Yep.
We're getting more and more back into the rhythm of a couple of movies coming out each week, and so I've got stuff to see. They're finally providing me capital C content.
He was telling me how much he enjoyed Boss Baby 2.
I did not see Boss Baby 2. Disclaimer. I refuse. We both saw The Suicide Squad.
It was real good.
It was excellent.
I loved
It's
that
an excellent
film, man.
movie.
It was real good.
It goes to show that production companies, Warner Brothers in particular, let people do their thing.
Yeah.
Hire creative people to be creative and to do their thing. And also, any single freaking character, any movie, any story can be great if it's about characters you like.
Yes.
Including Polka Dot Man.
He was so good.
He's such a good highlight. He was such a wonderful, empathetic character.
The whole thing, and we're going to do minor
Maybe
spoilers
minor
here.
spoilers.
Minor spoilers. The whole thing with him seeing his mom and everybody.
Wonderful recurring
hilarious,
joke. Yes,
man. Oh
yes.
my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah. No, the whole movie itself, it just every single aspect of it, I think, was excellent. And just the editing, the narrative pacing, the character development, the story writing, I thought it was all really great and did a very good job of overarching theme of even those we consider the lowliest beings having something to provide and being valuable.
Yeah.
Which was excellent. It was very good and very funny.
I will say that the bombasticity, how huge and how big it got at the end with Starro the Conqueror, that was a bit much for me.
Okay.
And it took me out of the fiction a little bit to be like, okay, where is Superman? Like, why isn't there somebody
He's in
coming
the
and
ICU,
punching
bro.
this thing? Like,
they explained at the beginning the reason why Bloodsport was on the mission or in jail is because he put Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet.
you know, that's funny because I remember hearing that, but I didn't think that was like, I thought that was, you know, 2 years ago he did that or whatever.
Maybe.
Just,
and also there's
he
like
still is,
there's
but
like
no,
30
that's a really good explanation that I didn't think about.
It might be
But,
still. There's also like 30 characters
like
in
Aquaman
DC
or
that
Batman
could continue
or
and do the same.
Flash or, you know, whatever.
Any of the other Supermen characters.
Yeah,
Wonder,
it was
Supergirl,
it was weird to have this
Sure.
world-ending threat, but the film was so good. I loved, and I hope we all called that the first crew was going to die. Right.
Oh
off
yeah,
the
no,
bat.
that made a lot of sense. All these characters are nothing but goofy and dumb. They
Yeah.
don't really give you any backstory for any of them, which is, if you know James Gunn, he's very good at character writing. You're like, okay, don't take these guys too seriously. And I loved it because it wasn't only like, it made sense. There was a point to that happening. They weren't just dying, and it didn't just feel like, okay, now let's go to the real story. There was a reason why they were there, and there was a point for them so that the actual real Suicides or real team could actually get into and complete their objective. And it also had Nathan Fillion with his arms detached.
TDK.
It's like, what is this? That's so weird. It just goes and slaps the guy.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It was the perfect, like, it was a very good, like, James Gunn vehicle.
Yeah.
Where it's just weird, goofy, strange, uncomfortable, irreverent, like, but also at the core of it, there's a lot of heart and a lot of character.
Yeah,
and a lot of,
absolutely.
like, you genuinely like these people and want to see them succeed. All right, let's move on to other stuff. What else have you seen or watched or read or whatever?
So sticking with movies, I watched Vivo. It's a new animated Netflix movie, starring Lin-Manuel Miranda and a new young girl that I don't remember her name. I'm so sorry. But the basic premise is that Lin-Manuel Miranda is a monkey that's
racist.
Inerly Simo is the little girl.
Okay.
Inerly Simo. And he plays a monkey who has, in Cuba, a sort of, what's the, like, music and monkeys dancing, whatever that's called? Like side on the road.
Nothing.
Man, there's an actual word for that, and I can't remember what it's called. The monkeys with the symbols and things that.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
He has a show kind of like that.
Organ grinder kind of guy.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But he plays music and whatever. But the guy gets a letter from his old love in Miami, Florida, and he has to go and he wants to go reunite with his love. But, minor spoiler, it happens in the first 10 minutes. The old man dies. And now his grandniece, who lives in Florida, Vivo, and her are going to deliver this. And it's a lot of animal, cute stuff. A very, very typical, traditional kids movie. So that's it for me on movies. Moving on to shows that I've been watching.
Yeah.
I watched the entire series of Monsters at Work. Or the entire season of Monsters at Work.
The Monsters, Inc. show.
Monsters, Inc. spin-off show. It's supposed to be right after Monsters, Inc. ends, where they're trying to transition from scare power to laugh power.
Is it before? Okay, so is it before or after the band Men at Work had their day?
After, but before Men at Work, the 80s Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez
Okay,
movie.
cool. We're placing on the At Work timeline here.
No, it was fun and cute. There was some real good humor in there, but it was definitely meant for, like, families. There's definitely a whole family type of thing to it. And so they didn't lean in too hard on the work humor, which I think could have helped elevate it. Made it a little bit funnier, a little bit more relatable to the whole setting.
The idea of The Office but monsters, I think, is kind of a funny concept.
I think that would have been great. And so it was a little bit of a disappointment to me, but my kids really enjoyed watching it, and that is obviously kind of the point.
Sure.
And so we watched it as a family, and that was a successful thing. Like, we enjoyed it as a family, and we really liked it all watching it together. So if you need a family show to watch, I'll recommend Monsters at Work.
You know what? I just had a funny Office but monsters joke real quick on a pitch it.
Okay.
let's go with Sully walks into the break room and the sink is just full of mugs. All of the mugs in the closet or in the cabinet are
So I work there.
They're
Got
all
it.
dirty. They're all dirty, and it has a flashback to like some other monster with like 58 mouths drinking coffee and just using all of them at the same time and then putting them all in the sink without washing them. And it's just a classic Office joke, but monster related.
See, and
Boom. Disney, hire me.
That is what I expected.
Sure.
I expected that. The relatable Office jokes, work jokes, but monsters and transitioning from scared to laugh. But it was much more like building a team type jokes and all working together type jokes.
We got one like frost monster and one fire monster continually turning down and up the thermostat to the extremes.
Just little cold opens like
Just
that.
hire me.
I'd have
Just
been there for
me.
that, man.
Hire me, Disney. I got this.
That.
Watched another movie, Stillwater. This is
Wait, is it still water?
Let me check. Googling. Yes, it
It's
is.
still okay. Good.
Yes, it
good.
is. For not much longer though, with the way our Earth, way we're going with our Earth.
Oof.
Stillwater. It's a movie about a Midwestern man from Stillwater, Oklahoma, which was fun. I've been there a couple times. Midwestern man from Stillwater, Oklahoma, going to Paris to see his daughter who she was convicted and put in prison of murder. And the movie is about him trying to help her whilst dealing with a obvious clash of cultures, going from Midwestern Oklahoma, America to Marseille, France. And you're like, going in, you're like, oh, we're going to get a lot of like culture clash. He's a Trump voter and these are artsy fartsy. And you're like, no, it's not that. It was very restrained and it was great because of it. It was a great movie. It was excellent. I would be shocked if it wasn't up for Best Picture this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just in the sense that it had the opportunity to do a lot of those dumb things.
Right.
It definitely broached those kind of subjects a few times. But it also kind of like responded to them in I'll give you an example. At one point, so he's staying with somebody comes over and they had been talking about him, this guy, whatever his name was. And one of them finally gets up the courage and says, "Did you vote for Trump?" And he's like, "No, I didn't." And they were like, "Oh." And you're like, "Oh, it's supposed to be a turn on." And then he's like, "I actually didn't vote." And then she's like back to angry. "Why didn't you? And he's like, "Actually, they don't allow felons to vote in my country." And you're like, ooh, indictment of the system. And you just didn't expect it in this kind of. And anyway, the movie was a lot of that, but also very restrained and very like, it asked a question at the end and it didn't have an outright right answer, I think, like, which is a good plot essentially when you can see the viewpoints on the various sides of the question. And it was really good. I highly recommend seeing Stillwater.
But I'm like 5 episodes into My Hero Academia that I started with my oldest daughter.
Okay.
And she's 10, and so it's definitely like geared toward her age range.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And here's what I'll say about MHA: the more things change, the more they stay the same. And it sure is anime. Now let me be clear: it's good, it's fun, and I like it. I'm really enjoying watching it. But it could have been the exact same plot, exact same animation, exact same everything when I was her age. And so it's just weird to see like this is still what's popular.
Well, there's an expectation in anime that
That's fair. Okay, that's all we got.
It's time for the nerdy gritty.
Let's get down to the nerdy gritty. Hey, before we do that, we just want to let you guys know that you're listening to an edited version of the Nerdy Gritty. You guys have probably heard this before, but everything before this is cut down just to make it a little more palatable for the casual listener. If that's you, cool. We really appreciate your support. Hey, we love it when you share this podcast. Tell your friends about it. Get the word out there. But if you're interested in hearing the director's cut, we call it the Nerdy Gritty, if you want to hear the 15, 20, sometimes half an hour of content that we cut out of this, go to patreon.com/DesmondFox and become one of our patrons. And with the second tier or higher, you get access to the director's cut of the Nerdy Gritty. At any level, you get access to our Discord and all of our Patreon exclusive contents. A lot of cool stuff up there. Whatever it is, though, we just want to say thank you for your support and all that you guys have done, just listening and telling your friends. With that being said, let's really get down to the nerdy gritty.
A few weeks ago, a new series, a new He-Man and the Masters of the Universe show went live on Netflix.
Right.
This was a show helmed by Kevin Smith. I don't know if he's a writer or not, but he's at least a producer. Heavy creative influence, basically considered his show. And in a reaction, there's been a lot of backlash to the show, where people who've watched it have claimed that it is quote unquote woke for the fact that it is largely like He-Man is actually absent from the show. Due to reasons. We don't need to spoil it. We're not really going to be talking about the plot of the show. But he's not there for a lot of it. It largely focuses on Teela, who is a female character in the He-Man world, in Eternia. Right. And there's been a lot of backlash because it's not necessarily, in a lot of people's view, a He-Man show.
Mm-hmm.
In response, there are people who have claimed that Kevin Smith is engaging in something called fan blaming. And we want to talk about that today. We'll define it, of course, but we're not really talking about the show itself, because there are other examples of this kind of concept happening, but we want to talk about the idea of fan blaming, and is it justified? We'll talk about like his reaction, things like that. But first, let's talk about, I'm going to try to define fan blaming for you, because it's one of those like concepts that doesn't have a dictionary definition.
It's a pretty new thing.
It's a fairly new thing. But here's what I've defined it as. The concept, fan blaming is the concept that a piece of art is bad because of fans' misconception of what it will be, not the creative decisions made when creating it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
To be more specific, when somebody is blaming the fans because they had false expectations.
Like if something has what is a generally negative or not positive review,
yes,
and the creators say it's the fans' fault.
So to put it in practical terms, with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Revelation, that's a new series. It is Kevin Smith blaming fans for having false expectations of this show,
right?
That made it quote unquote bad for them, not that the show itself is quote unquote bad.
Yes.
Okay, I think we put that pretty simply, pretty clearly.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here when a creator blames the audience for a negative review or whatever it might be, the backlash of something. There have been other examples of this. I mean, the big one that comes to our mind was Ghostbusters,
right?
2016. I think Last Jedi.
Yeah,
was this a little bit? Because again, it's not just that people have.
Not Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi.
The concept is that people have that it's the creator blaming people. It's not necessarily that people were upset by it,
right?
Because that's a lot of things. It's that the creator, and I don't think Rian Johnson was as blatant about it as like Kevin Smith has been, but I think there was a little bit of that there. And so this is not a new thing, but the concept of fan blaming, which has kind of in this Vice article I'm reading about this, it's kind of a combination of let's see, what's the two terms that it's kind of a combination of gaslighting and dang, I can't remember exactly what it. I can't find it here, but it's basically this. No, what you're saying is wrong, and Anyway, so let's just right off the bat. How does that hit you? What the concept of fan blaming?
What's really tough is that I think there are situations in which it's totally valid to blame the fans, and other situations in which it's not, and that's totally subjective on which ones you can and you can't. So here's my real issue with it. And again, we talked about Ghostbusters versus this, and you know what, since this is the actual subject, let's not talk about Master of the Universe. How about Ghostbusters versus The Last of Us Part 2?
Okay.
Ghostbusters had generally negative reviews.
Pretty overwhelmingly, one could say.
And so the creators turned and said misogyny.
Yes.
It's because it was
very
all,
blatantly.
Yeah.
This is because people don't like women.
Right. On the other hand, The Last of Us Part 2, I just looked up, has a 93 Metacritic score.
Yes.
And a 5.7 user score.
5.7 is higher than I expected on that one.
Yeah. And so it's, but generally moderate as far as fans. And I think the creators and a lot of people have said the fans were, that is also a fan blaming situation. A lot of misogyny or just conservatism, I guess you could say, that went into those.
in a version of conservatism.
Yeah. That was a lot of the issue there. And subjectively, I would say Ghostbusters is wrong, but The Last of Us Part 2 is right. And it's really tough because...
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Exactly. And that's what's so hard about this.
I think that's what we have to be clear about here is that criticism, and I mean that in like the sense of being an art critic, as like a... which we all are at times. If we liked or didn't like it, you don't have to be paid to be a critic, is inherently subjective. There is, as much as I want it to be, there is no such thing as objective art criticism. And so our phrasing when we talk about this has to be He-Man was something that fans didn't like. Right. Not that He-Man was bad. Because whether or not we like, it's just what people thought about it. Yes. Not that it was inherently bad because there's no such thing.
And admittedly, I haven't seen all of it yet. But what
I've watched
I have
3 out of 5 episodes.
I've watched 2. And what I have seen is well written and engaging, and interesting.
I enjoy it.
The animation is top notch, like
fun jokes and kind of pokes fun at the He-Man concept.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, and it's I think it's really good. I like it, and so I think one way that we can look at this, and it's almost sort of that like trying to create a metric where there isn't one. As a baseball fan, I love creating metrics.
Yeah, you like those stats. You like the numbers here. Let's moneyball this out.
But trying to find like among the negative reviews, how many people were fans of the original going into this? How, like, if you were to say, did you watch this because you loved the original, or did you watch this because you were just interested in it? I would say I watched it because I'm just interested in it. Sure, I enjoyed the original, but it was not my thing.
I never watched it. It was a thing before I was
before your time.
A lot. I mean, I've seen episodes because I was born a couple of years after. But
right. And so the G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles was more my thing. Sure. I had some He-Man stuff, but not a lot. And so to me, it wasn't part of my childhood. But at the same time, Star Wars was. Mm-hmm. Star Wars was a huge part of my childhood. And if we're going to talk about The Last Jedi, I had really weird mixed feelings with Last Jedi, where as a cinephile, somebody who appreciates the art of film, and I know you and I disagree on this, but as an artistic film, I think it's very good. I think it's a very well-made... I think
there were some interesting parts of it, for sure.
I think it was a very well-made, well-executed film that spoke a lot about expectations and what true heroism is and things like that, and created more real life where the good guy doesn't always win. Sometimes things just suck. I thought it was really well-made. Sure wasn't Star Warsy, though. And I like it as a Star Wars fan, it wasn't very Star Warsy. And I was just like, okay, this is supposed to be sort of the climax of the thing, the middle movie of this trilogy, and it's supposed to be all the big awesome stuff or the big reveals or whatever happening here, and this just wasn't very Star Warsy.
It was a weird mix of expected and unexpected in bad and good ways.
Whereas The Rise of Skywalker, I felt the exact opposite about. It was super Star Warsy. They brought all the Star Wars they could to that.
Yes.
And the little Star Wars nerd inside of me was like, glee, it's Lando Calrissian. But as a cinephile, somebody who loves film, it was not a good movie.
It was a poorly constructed film. It was
poorly made.
In a lot of ways.
We have to like parse out this whole fandom side of us that has expectations.
Yes.
And that's so difficult to do.
It's very difficult.
And I think it comes to, I've been listening to a different podcast about Christian values because you guys know Fox and I are both devout Christians, but talking about self-reflection has to be something that we need to, as human beings, all human beings have to be aware of.
Yes.
And that's something that I find that helps me in my critiquing of films, is that self-reflection of, what do I expect from this? Why did I enjoy this? Mm-hmm. I enjoyed this because the Emperor is back and we got to see them fight the Emperor, and that was awesome. Logically, does that make any sense at
You're
all?
gonna make my brain explode.
No, it doesn't.
Thank.
In fact, logically, that was stupid.
Which makes it
Dang
a
it.
bad movie.
Right. And so, again, I had to be able to parse those things out, but I don't think a lot of people do that.
I want to say this in a, it's going to sound mean, I guess the
Okay.
word is, but I do
But you're stupid and I hate you.
that everything about
ugly
you is
idiot.
wrong. I think it is a sign of emotional maturity. Maybe not emotional maturity. That might not be the best. Some kind of maturity to be able to say, I didn't like this, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a real interest. The concept of fandom has evolved, and it's weird to me, but I think it's evolved along with internet culture, where you can have a much greater voice on the internet, and that this is a whole other topic, but just you can find a community on the internet very easily where if you have the right opinions or if you're super interested in a thing, then they will accept you and it can be great.
Yeah.
But that can also be a very insular thing. And it can become where if this is the community that I'm finding validation because I like Star Wars or because of whatever this thing is, then if something that is that if it's a new Star Wars movie that I didn't like, then it's attacking me because I put so much value into this thing. That's obviously not everybody is that. I think that might be some people, but that's, I can't say no fandom, no audience is a monolith.
Right.
But to me, just a piece of art, when you get to the level of saying that you betrayed the fans because you didn't like it, then you are saying this is a part of my identity, and you've betrayed me by making it something I didn't like. And that's an issue.
Yes.
This is where we get to the idea of self-reflection, of a movie that you really were excited about not being what you wanted it to be you are not a victim of anything. You are not somebody to be blamed, or you are not somebody who has been harmed because of this.
Right.
You just didn't like the thing that you were excited for. It sucks. I get it.
It's okay to be disappointed.
It's okay
That's
to be
fine.
disappointed and to express that disappointment. But when it comes to the level of like trying
Vitriol?
vitriol, yeah. Well, what did I write here? Fans cannot be blamed if a piece of art is bad. But they can be blamed if they harass the creators of that art.
Yeah.
So going back
that's
to
well
The
said.
Last Jedi,
That's well said.
going back to The Last Jedi, you were not going to be blamed for anything if you just expressed, I really didn't like this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was dumb. I didn't like the character of Rose. I thought she didn't have much to do. I didn't think they wrote her well. You will be blamed if you harass her on Instagram to the point where she has to delete her account for her mental health.
Yeah.
That's on you. You can be blamed for that.
Yes.
And those are two separate things. And there has to be a level of maturity, I think, is a good word for it, where you can parse the difference between being disappointed by a show or a movie or whatever it might be, and also the amount of life you are putting into this thing.
Again, and it takes a lot of. I almost feel like I'm patting myself on the back here. I don't mean to be, but there's a lot of like introspection that comes into this, and what comes to mind to me immediately is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
The Academy Award winning, film very well.
It's great.
I thought it was fine. It was a pretty good movie, and I watched it, and I'm like, it's okay. I don't know that I want to see it again.
Sure.
But as I watched it and looked at it, and my wife liked it a lot more than I did, and she talked about it with me a lot, and I'm like, I can see that. I can really see that.
Yeah.
And I look at it, and I'm like, you know what? Artistically, it's a really well-made film. I can understand why people really enjoy it. I understand why it won the awards that it won. I understand this film, why it's so popular. Wasn't for me, though.
Sure.
And that's fine. That's okay. And that ability to say, this is well made, but I didn't enjoy it as much as others, or maybe I disliked it, or maybe even just to say, man, I loved He-Man as a kid. It's called He-Man right there in the title. I walked in looking for a lot more He-Man and he wasn't there. I was disappointed by that. And you can say that. That is okay. But then to say, and therefore all of it is terrible.
Yeah.
That's you're taking leaps.
Or not even that. Or like that's not even like then to say Kevin Smith betrayed the fans and it's woke and this is just the liberal, like, to go into this whole, like, this is a real thing. I told you before we started recording this, There were a
Oh,
few
yeah.
few
Ugh.
videos that that were linked to from this Vice article that were examples of some of the backlash, and I watched them, and it was so frustrating to watch these YouTube personalities conflating the idea of something that they were hoping was good being bad, and then conflating that with this person is actively trying to destroy my childhood,
Right.
and which doesn't make any. That's not a thing.
If your childhood was exclusively based on Masters of the Universe, I'm sorry. You don't need to watch a TV show. You need to see a therapist.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense. That even then, He-Man in the original show still exists.
Yeah.
Just go watch it and your childhood is restored, I guess. But no, there's just this weird level of just vitriol, like you said, put toward people who made a show you didn't like. It's okay for that to exist. It's going to happen again. I promise you.
Yeah, and that's And so I guess to kind of come back to the actual subject here,
Yes.
fan blaming. Is it
Right.
valid for a creator to say, look, man, these negative reviews, that's not on me, that's on the fans? And I will say sometimes, yes, that is a valid point to
Absolutely.
make sometimes.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but I think the flip side of that is if a creator says that, I don't think that needs to prompt anything from us as the
Just ignore
viewers,
it.
though. Yeah. if the creator says it was the fans, you can say, I agree with you, or I disagree with that. And then you can move on with your
Move on
day.
with your life and watch something else or go to work or whatever it is you got to do that day.
I think that once we get to the Spider-Man meme where we're all pointing fingers at each other and trying to blame whose faults it is that this has a poor Metascore or whatever else, that this is bad, I think we've missed the point of art. The art it doesn't exist to prove whether it's good or not. The art exists of whether you enjoyed it or not and whether it was well made or not.
Art exists to make a statement.
Yeah.
To say something most of
And-
the time or to be entertaining or whatever.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you take in art so that you can lord your opinion over somebody else, that doesn't make you a good critic. It makes you a bad person.
Right. Yeah. That's just a dumb, terrible thing to do. Another point I wanted to say is in the same vein, no audience is a monolith. If I did not like this show that came out, if I didn't like this show, it wasn't what I expected, maybe 50 million other people did.
Yeah.
Like, if you expect everything to be directed straight toward you, then you don't even understand marketing. Shows and movies and stuff. Obviously, you have audiences that you are like, this is going to be for an adult audience. It's rated R.
Hey, what's our demographic? Greg Tomlinson in New Jersey. He's our demographic.
Specifically,
Just
Trenton,
him.
New Jersey. Address 1456 Mockingbird Way.
Go ask him what he wants us to
Go
make.
see what he and we joke, but it feel like that's watching some of these videos. That's what it feels like is supposed like that's what they expect. That somebody expects. If it doesn't appeal to me, then they made a bad woke show for the SJWs. When in reality, everybody is in their target audience. Obviously, they're going to have some more specific audiences with just whatever it is they're making, but nothing is for you specifically. And so just like it is such a weird, selfish way to look at, I didn't like this, so it's bad, and we should harass somebody potentially because of it.
And you know what? Let's pretend for a moment that this piece of art is quote unquote woke. I hate the word, but let's say
it
that
means nothing.
Yeah, that it is purposely meant to have this progressive message or whatever else. That's part of the art then. That's what
it.
art is.
And you don't like
There
it.
you go.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
That's okay to not like it, but art is there to make a statement, and that's part of the statement they're making. You figured it out, so they obviously did a good job. They communicated their message.
Sure, maybe.
And that's fine. And if you don't like it, that's also
I mean,
fine.
that's the frustrating thing about all this is that it's inevitably going to come back to it's okay if you didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Hopefully you did. That'd be great. But if you didn't, it's okay. There's more stuff to watch. Go watch something else.
So let me ask you then,
Please.
on the flip side of this, so let's turn back around to the creators here, and let me ask you the question, do they need to fan blame? Let's pretend for a moment it is the fans' fault. It is a situation like Last of Us Part 2, where we can pretty objectively say that this is not actual critique. It's mostly just angry fans.
Sure.
Let's pretend that's
In
the
this
case.
vocal section of the audience, yeah.
Couldn't they just be like, whatever, guys. Like, does a creator need to actually publicly be like, hey, let me be clear. I think we made something good. I think it's the fans just being,
Well, sure. Oh, yeah. No, I always think the best option when this kind of, because it's really like, unless you're getting on YouTube and just making a personal video that says, hey, stop it, jerks. Like, that's going to come off real bad. But most of the time, this comes up in like interviews.
Yeah.
Where somebody will come up like, oh, there was a vocal part of the audience that actively didn't like this. Like, I think the best thing is probably to say, well, yeah, our game's not for everybody. Just some, and that would enrage a lot of people, which I love. Because everything's supposed to be for me. But that's probably the best. Yeah, fan blaming, though. Like, at the same time, why not talk? Why not? If this is how you view it, like, that's fine. Like, again, at the end of the day, if you disagree, that's okay. Like, I do think it is valid sometimes to say, like, the way I view it and understanding I might be I might be biased here because I made it and I like it. But to go into, I think people had expectations of this thing we created that weren't met. And therefore, they were a little disappointed regardless of what was in it. And I think that's okay to talk about. Because I think that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Because at the root of this, I think there is a real problem of, like, the more that media has become like universalized, where everything, you have whole universes happening, and like I think the next big thing on the chopping block as far as what could potentially be blamed on the fans is the next Spider-Man movie, because they have set the stage for, wait a minute, there's a billion rumors about other Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and every actor from every Spider-Man movie is going to be in this. And when it comes out and there may be one or two or nothing at all, and people are disappointed, that's on you.
Yeah.
If they never set up if they never said, here's what's in the movie, and then didn't put that in the movie, then that's just your expectations and you were disappointed. And that's going to color your opinion, and it's going to be, it could suck, but
which that mindset crosses over into trailer trash for me. The idea of like scenes in trailers that aren't actually in the movie and actually setting expectations that aren't going to exist and whatnot. But that's a totally different conversation. You can go listen to our episode on trailer trash.
Yeah, or something like No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
They set up an expectation, it didn't fulfill it. You can't blame the fans for being upset about that.
Right.
You made a promise. Now you have more than made up for it in the past couple of years, but like, yeah, it just.
I would just say, if you're a creator who's gonna blame the fans, you best be sure of that, because I would not want to be on the side of the Ghostbusters, where, look, man, you didn't make a good film. You can't just blame misogynists for that.
That might have been part of it.
Yeah.
But also make a better
movie. And it's one of those things where the fact that it was an all-woman cast and that you still made kind of a poor film, that is disappointing. Like, you had a moment to actually make a statement and actually do something positive in this way with an all-female led cast. And the fact that you dropped the ball there is sad. So don't cop out and blame the fans.
With Ghostbusters, I know you're not a huge fan of Red Letter Media, but they did do a video where they took a sample of like the original trailer that dropped. They took a sample of the comments, I think like 1,000 comments, and basically went through every single one and found how many of them actively made like misogynist comments, and obviously did not count comments that just said this looks bad, because that's not misogynist. And then compared that to the amount of comments and did the same with like the likes and the dislikes, and found that like as far as the trailer reaction goes, it was something like 0.0001% of reactions were actively misogynistic. And it like they were just like, so I don't really know where you're coming from when you're saying this was just misogyny. That's a pretty small most people just said this is bad.
Yeah, this does not look like a good film.
Right.
Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Oh man. So, well, anyway, that's my thoughts. You got anything else?
No, I'm really hoping that the internet can get better.
Good luck with that, man.
Sure. I want there to be I want to get to a place where we can view art as not something that's made for me. That is I'm not the one. There's going to be stuff I don't like, and that's okay. And I hope we can get to that point.
That's another thing that, I mean, you take a look at like the artists of like the Renaissance and even before that, and the things that they had to say about each other, and like the just total shade being thrown back and forth. Just
Wait, people are bad to each other all the
all
time?
throughout history.
They just didn't have the internet?
Gasp. But yeah, hopefully people will get better. I would say my huge takeaway from this is, look, if you're going to be a critic of anything, please have some introspection.
Yeah.
Please have some awareness of why you disliked something or why you liked something. And if your response is because it was awesome, you got to have more than that. Or because it was stupid, you got to have more than that,
Sure.
man. Don't just go around, shooting at everybody and throwing stones and whatever else. If you don't have some logical conversation to bring to that, do some introspection, find out why you didn't like something. And if it's a valid reason, talk about it. But if you're honest with yourself and you're like, nah, I probably just had expectations that weren't lived up to, then just say I didn't like it, and that's fine.
Right.
Just leave it at that.
And creators, maybe just avoid the conversation altogether.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep.
You don't have to respond to everything.
Let them do it. Let people whine. It's going to happen. Well, guys, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for listening. We want to say thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and so do most of my neighbors, off the album Dear Sam. It's a good album, and they're a good band, so go listen to them.
Hey, over
now!
Okay. Let me open my computer again. Sorry. Hey, over on our YouTube channel, that's youtube.com/DesmondFoxPlay, we are currently playing a game called Everhood.
There you go.
I forgot the name of it for a second. It's called
I almost said
Everhood.
TikTok.
And it's we just got finished with TikTok, and that was a fun game.
In the funniest way possible.
And the last episode is hilarious in weird ways. But no, we're playing Everhood, which is essentially, hey, think of Undertale, but then like mix in some Guitar Hero.
Yep.
And if that sounds cool to you, like it does to me, then you should go watch us play, because it's weird and goofy and also fun and kind of difficult. And I'm playing on the easiest difficulty because I'd rather have fun than get frustrated.
100%,
So,
yes.
anyway, go watch us play that. We're going to be going to PAX in 2 weeks as of recording this.
I'm so
excited. It's been 2 whole years. And we're going to have a lot of fun content from there. So be on the lookout for that coming up soon. And yeah.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening. And always remember that saved games save lives.
Bye.
My voice sings